Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita?" Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, "O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no nose, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times, by means of Prajnaparamita, fully awaken to unsurpassable true complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangati Bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice." When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Chandara Samaraya Vedeyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangati Bodhiso Mapa Ganju Zanji Gaiden Vedoji Shel Vadoji Mevadoji Shivadoji Dagi Baji Metu Beju Danji Sheling Koryezo Ngiri Andon Jaji Joye Wada Meto Nube Yendan Wadan Doma Dunjim Bunzun Zun Yoyi Naji De Yan Le Yo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Elam Guru Radha Mandala Kamni Radhayami. Jadan Zaji Janama Janjo Badu Dani Yasuji Dagi Janye Jibezo Namji Yola Benji Zanye Rubayo Jadan Zaji Janamla Janjo Badu Dani Yasuji Dagi Janye Jibezo Namji Yola Benji Zanye Rubayo Jadan Zaji Janamla Janjo Badu Dani Yasuji Dagi Janye Jibezo Namji Yola Benji Zanye Rubayo.
Samba Jama la Jiden Shama Tony Lojebatan, Jiden Shama di Totemba. Nigan, Jiden Shama di Totemba, Tala Jono, the Lende Nigan, Lende, or the Lende Caduladim, Tal Lende de la Neba Dele Taji saw Lendela Ishi Tebajebala Son Lendesha Sambatan, Sosur Shedadu Sambatan, Sane, Jodusha Sumarva, Sane Jodusha Sonje.
So today, again, we're looking at Lama Tsong-kha-pa's great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, and we'll begin with the outline. So we find the first category is how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path, and then the second category of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher. The second category has 2 points that are made. First, an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. Under the heading of how to take advantage or full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we have three major headings: training the mind in the stages of the path shared in common with beings of small capacity, training the mind in the stages of the path shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. First category, training the mind in the stage of the path shared in common with beings of small capacity, we find three major categories. First, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity. Second, the measure of the attitude of a person of small capacity. And then third, dispelling any misconceptions related to a person of small capacity. So the first category, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, has two major headings. First, developing the state of mind that strives diligently for the sake of future lives, and the second category of relying on a means or a method for achieving happiness in one's next life. So that last category of the method for achieving happiness or the means for achieving happiness in one's next life has two categories. First, karma and its, first refuge, and then second, karma and its results. So we're completing the refuge section. And now we're dealing with the section on karma and its results. So the section on karma and its results begins with developing the faith of conviction that is the root of all temporary happiness and certain goodness. And this is developing faith and conviction in karma and its results. That is the root of all temporary happiness and certain goodness. So there are three headings under that one major heading that will explain the major heading of the conviction that is the root of all temporary happiness and certain goodness. First, reflecting on karma and its effects in general. Second category, reflecting on karma and its effects with specifics, or looking at the particulars. And then third category is how you engage in virtue and turn away from non-virtue after you've reflected on karma and its effects in general and in detail or in particular, if you will. So that is the order in which karma and its results will be discussed. Dixon.
Le ngebi chu le bechewa le maji badam treba le shaba chu melo jaba o de chun balongato o de lari chimo de na kutulari chimo to de jana.
So we're going to now rely on the pages of the Lamrim Chenmo, page 210 in the English, where we begin with the actual way that we reflect in general. So there are four categories that deal with the general reflection on karma and its results. First category is the certainty of karma and its results, or the certainty of karma. And again, just for clarity, the word karma is a Sanskrit word that means action. So we could say the certainty of action, and that would be the English pure translation of that. So the certainty of action or karma, the magnification of karma or action, not experience the effects of actions that you did not do. So here we've chosen this word actions instead of karma. And then fourth category, that the actions you have done do not perish. So the actions that one is engaged in do not perish. So these are the four categories that deal with the actual way in which you reflect in general.
Ta lenge o ngebi chu tkaze lenge chu ta le peche o marba ta lenge chu lo ta tu lari chimol ta so da donda de susu ju inare phaba inare ane doa ne phaba ina susu ju inanda doa chamalo ane jot gwala de jware ane donge den da jwai dajubi juji dunga chete jo magawala tene shungware dawale ne dunga nyumares ane kasware gi le tamagi le nyebute debu dawada dunga sosunga gares te khun gares na rejente amarbe magawala dunga ku deshinga ndo tanje to gele de tanje da jewa gun dawatas wa tena du no translate mudwe.
Then Nipa, the Susujudan da Jombi Dugnel, the Migewa, the Jepo. They got something da Jomba. The Lamrim Chenmo Nala.
Da Jomba the Susuju, da Jomba the Susuju, Kajura da, and so Happy Billy Marba. What the Galo, then the Jugawagan Devores, Gay Devore, and Suzu the Babi Jula Sabri Billy doing it, or Tugnolo, Lemagin Devores, or the Susu Devores, Kunkarza Regentawa, what the down the mother,
So we begin with the first two categories, but we're going to begin with the certainty of karma and the magnification karma. So beginning with the certainty of karma, the meaning of this is as follows. Virtue and non-virtue have certain results. So when we look at the results that one can experience relative to feelings of happiness or feelings of suffering, feelings of happiness are necessarily caused and dependent upon virtuous action. Feelings of unhappiness are necessarily caused and depend upon non-virtuous action. So any happiness that an ordinary being or a superior being experiences is caused by virtuous activity. So we find that these emotions or these feelings have their individual causes. Happiness is individual cause, being virtue. And then when we look to the next possibility of the feeling of suffering, any feeling of suffering that a being experiences, be they an ordinary being or even a foe destroyer, is caused by a non-virtuous action. So this is suffering's individual cause. So happiness and suffering have their individual causes, which are virtue and non-virtue, and that certainly these actions give rise to those results. So we find this supported, I'm so sorry, I just forgot the quote. We find this supported in Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, where he states that from non-virtues come all sufferings and likewise all the miserable realms. From virtues come all the happy realms and all the joys in all rebirths. So here this is how we show that non-virtuous deeds cause all the sufferings and virtuous deeds cause happiness.
What teacher and the what the Guala Tenichevare, doing it, Jumagala Tenichevares, and Teremato Jumel Chegumare, Matu Jul Chegamares, what does Montamarba?
So then Lama Tsong-kha-pa goes on to say that happiness is caused by and dependent upon virtue, and suffering. So in summary, Lama Tsong-kha-pa says, all happiness is caused by virtuous action, and all suffering is caused by non-virtuous action. These experiences or these feelings don't arise causelessly, nor do they arise from incompatible causes or causes that are not concordant with them. Dixon.
Jugawan Hasubal Jebare, Dungan Raman Hasubate, Devan Hasubal Jebares, what the Santa Kijamudi, Tosul Coachabaina, Tosul Coachabaina, Lendela Ishi, Tevajabaina, Nual Jigamaris also hole, what the Susan Abatai, Tangasu Duma Chasuna, Luna but Gomare. And then Lunga Najula Dana. Kulunga Guyabata, Chaba Jaguyabata, and Naje Jaguyabakalo, Lunga Kalalatene, Shetudo. Tenaji, the one had to be Vitale, and the one had to be there, and Goan had to be Lijiba, and Hasuba Lijiba, Dungan Hasuba there. Diban Hasul Cheba, what then Solomon Batan was a matter, Solomon Batan, but Nashina Hasubandu, tree parking. Shin Hasubate, could Jun Hasuba Jiljiba and Hasubudu. She Jil Chajaba in a could live minimum do it. Live Susu Juror Shinu to Yogro. What in the son of Pumajane, Telesanam of Tan and Coachasuna? And Chimba in a Roju in a New Chigmar smooth, what negative to the Manve.
So we need to think of about this and develop faith and conviction in karma and its results, because it's stated if we can have this faith and conviction, then we will not have to be reborn into the hell realms. So it's stated that this frees us from that opportunity. So we have to think of many examples which support this in order for us to develop this faith and conviction. So we begin to think of the varieties of types of suffering, for instance, that one can experience. Why are there so many different varieties of types of suffering? It's because there are varieties of actions that are non-virtuous that produce these varieties of sufferings. And then why are there these varieties of happiness, the different varieties of happiness? It's because there are individual causes that are different, or that are the virtuous deeds or virtuous karma that have many varieties, or that have many forms. So it's for that reason that their results produce a variety of results that are compatible. So virtue causing happiness, non-virtue causing suffering. So the sign that there are these varieties of actions are the varieties of experiences that are results. So there necessarily must be varieties of causes, since they are results. So we begin to look at this from a science and reasoning standpoint, that each of these results have to have their individual compatible causes, and therefore there must be a variety of causes that are compatible. So this is when we begin to develop this faith and conviction by use of these examples and signs and reasoning. For instance, when we see a tree, there's one tree that's there, but it's producing varieties of leaves and branches and shoots and so forth that have all of their individual causes and so forth. But there's only one tree that we see there that's producing the result. Likewise, there's one person that's producing these varieties of actions that are producing these varieties of experiences that are compatible to the cause. Dikson. One example when we see use of signs and reasoning, for instance, when somebody becomes angry, their face becomes red, or if somebody has various different kinds of emotions, they'll have an outward physical experience that happens. This is the varieties of emotions that are causing these outward results. So this is an example to try to relate to how these varieties of actions produce varieties of results. The Don Marpong Jason Kongmebchi. So if we use these examples and we think of them in these terms over and over, then we will support our understanding of what virtue produces and what non-virtue produces, and it will make us want to then engage in virtuous actions because of the understanding that we have related to these things. So the next category is the magnification of karma, and here this is it is posited that a very small virtue creates a very large amount of happiness, or a magnified amount of happiness, and a very small non-virtue creates a great amount of suffering, or a magnified amount of suffering. So this point is made in this section of the magnification of karma, and it points out that the internal magnification is much, when we look at cause and effect, is much greater than external magnification when we look at cause and effect. So when we're looking at cause, just not karma and its results here, I'm just specifically cause and effect, this internal cause and effect that we're speaking of related to karma and its magnification is a much greater magnification than we will ever see with external cause and effect.
ne dojan drema yo
Lesson.
zangan debi chance what longe de jet and les zombies chance zombies ne les la ten dreba zombie yo what tu dois le and dans le temps and c'est là temps si dans l'ambu jungle le jutre marba zombie le zangan debi chouante longétige zambi le jute au matje sonje de ta son de sonje roa tene wolma chuti dans chuga dans choa dans tawaje shegmude tawa de manya bayina hama sunde ne taba nyos taba majeba changaji nyaba yene niwal chego mares lol jinogres sanji longte marbe longte dro lodeso ne sanji le deba lende le ichi deba tembe yodan shine mata hal jinogres hal jin keba tongi kesan sanji ke temba to shu ne tijin la shuba maduga sama
That's so. So it first deals with the magnification of karma, and then it deals with the negative aspects by way of narratives of non-virtuous activities and their magnification. So it shows how a small non-virtue by way of narratives increases to a great amount of suffering. And then there are examples of the stories of the herdsman, Nanda and the frog beaten by his staff, the goose, the fish, the 500 tortoises, the 500 hungry ghosts, the 500 bulls, etc. And then it shows from the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish the accounts of Samana, Devata, Suvarnavasu, and Hastipala, where it's showing the positive results of virtuous activities and their magnification. So how a small virtuous activity produces a great amount. A small virtuous activity produces a great amount of happiness. So then these stories support those statements. And then it goes on to speak of people during these times have lapses, and it shows what in various behaviors, and then it shows what the results of that are. So it's saying that during these times, there are many beings who still hold the philosophical view. So they haven't given up their philosophical view or their correct philosophical view and related to what we're speaking of, karma and its results, etc. But they have some sort of lapse in ethical discipline, rituals, and livelihood. So we went over that previously. So this lapse causes them to be reborn as Nagas. So it's saying that there's a story that relates to why are there so many Nagas in the world at this time, and it's stated that the reason for this is because of the lapse of ethical discipline, rituals, and livelihood, but the conviction that still remained related to philosophical view. And then it says those beings who were born as Nagas, even though they had to stay in that place, they then at the end of their lifetime would then be born as deities or humans, gods or humans, and then would be able to, as long as they are the not the Mahayanist, they will be able to be reborn, be able to pass into nirvana in that lifetime, being taught by one among the 1,000 Buddhas that will come. So there are 1,000 Buddhas that will come, and during this fortunate time, so these beings that lapsed in those three things but still kept their ethical discipline will stay as Nagas and then be reborn as a deity or a human being and be able to be taught directly by one of the 1,000 Buddhas and then enter nirvana. And this, though, is only speaking of those on the lesser vehicle track, not those of the Mahayana, not the great vehicle practitioners. Dixon.
Tallo dozo sanjil deba tembo lendela ishi deba tembo yozan ana kuzo matan halje waris halje tene halje ana matan halje ngal da sanjil tung ngama ge duja dozo shema ge duja chen gojero da ngama ge duja dozo lol cheken ngalo ya matan halje ne sanjil tung mapi gonle sanjil tembo le june tije le jobazo sanjil tu marmato samalo dajo tulis debe chutu debe kutul lendela ichi deba da sanjil la ichi deba tembo yozan ote ane keba ton sanjil ton beayo marba ote tije le jobato sama dajo tulis kutul deba chibo yozan tije baris debe chutu chudizar.
So it's saying that those beings who were Nagas that still kept this correct philosophical view. So this means that they have faith and conviction in the Buddha, and then the karma and its results. So this faith and conviction is there. Those beings will be reborn as deities and humans and then be able to be directly taught by among the 1,000 Buddhas of this eon. There are many Buddhas before and many Buddhas that will come. In this particular eon, we speak of 1,000, and they will be directly taught by those beings and be able to achieve the state of foe destroyer as a result of this. It is stated. But this is only speaking of those beings who are those four types of practitioners who are followers of the lesser vehicle, and not speaking of those Mahayanist or great vehicle practitioners.
ane le gawa chung chamu tanga ane donge chamu to suyla dane dowa to donge kaya yomaris san tang yomaris wa to suyla le dreba dowa to donge yungaris sha nakhal ruwa yina tarim rudule te kul jama tontu maris mashar marbe tontu ma le odu te jama duwa te najin gawa da diba chamu to suyla dane ngazu tongma durma du tin dreba what the name was what the trouble thing but
so then the next is that we get into the section that deals with one shouldn't think that a small virtue or a small non-virtue is insignificant. So it shows that no matter what, they always follow with us. These things that we do, no matter what they are. Then the example of the bird is given, and the shadow that remains even though it's high in the sky and you can't see it, the shadow is still following that bird even though it's not seen. Likewise, all of the actions that we do, even though they're not seen, remain with us. So we shouldn't think that they are inconsequential.
what that lepichi chudo pichi what the nisarita in a to chabudu Kalesan Mutona
Yanjuruna near the Tsong-kha-pa.
Lepichi chudil Tanjabi Sajin of Drujivan. The what true the leg Gawa Chumuta, Deba Chumule, Debichu is a Tomaji. Then Zang and David Lujus. Longe de Maru Longe. Lanze Gaye, Kaye, Beba, Yeda, Naja Sajidua. Tazang and Devin Devion Lojutres.
Ducha.
So the Dunzan said, Zambi Lujudis. Deva Zambi, Yabu Waters. Lojuti was Sombaje.
Jepa, the low.
Tal Jeba de Monte Marveta, and 다 라존다 치마서 거르베 다 가리나
Okay,
ane 추진다 초가다 초와다 따와 이제래 ane 따와도 많이 봐이나 성질의 의식이 대바 많이 레넬의 의식이 대바도 많이 봐이나 안 추진냐바다 초가냐바다 ane 초와냐바다는 이바이나야 니월 지금 말해 롤제는 그래스
Ale, then a ngapa the hladang me. Ale.
롤제는 그래서 롤도서 ane 의식이 대바 많이 봐이서 고스신의 마tal 알젠데
Then ngapa.
지금 어려 알젠데 그래스 고스 마tal 할제네 ane 고스 대바 때문에 여자 레넬의 이제 대바다 상질의 이제 대바 때문에 여자 대왕기 ane 계속 상지 동그 temple shune tijen shibo matuko chama dachumbo tunu yes
Then ewa drupa gare.
drupa tereta le chunguta deba chungina pungure gwa chujujina drugure madru na hoti dreba dungures sha nakal deba ina chungulong jandmara sha ta khal be wasat chungulong jandro sha nakal deba ina jaman tu mara 칠만 레온도 동도 전나제 거와 총도 대바 총이 있나야 제가 태우도 등에다 도와 용거다 서서 제송하지 살
Then the domba the deepa drupa. Okay. So if we're going to go back, just for clarity, with the Jamyang Sheba's commentary, there's an outline related to this that we've been going through. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on each individual category. So I just asked Rinpoche to clarify that for my sake to be able to translate it more clearly. So we begin with the first category is that when we look at this magnification of karma, where the first category in this section that Jamyang Sheba states is that a very small virtue can cause a great non-virtue, and a very small virtue can cause a very great amount of happiness, and a very small non-virtue can cause a very great amount of suffering. So this is the first category, dealing with the results being magnified. The second category deals with stories that relate and show this magnification and related to non-virtuous deeds, small non-virtuous deeds causing a great amount of suffering. So this is the second category. The third category is that deals with the positive stories about positive actions and their magnifications. So this is the third category. The fourth category deals with the story of why there are so many Nagas currently in the world, and it's showing that if one, even though during this time, if someone cannot uphold in a pure way his or her ethical discipline, rituals, or livelihood, but still maintains a correct view related to this faith and conviction in the Buddha, faith and conviction in karma and its results, he or she will not have to be reborn in the hell realm. He or she will be able to be reborn as a Naga. So this is the fourth category. And then the fifth category deals with those beings who have abandoned the wrong ideas, who've maintained this philosophical view and have been born as Nagas. And these Nagas who maintain and hold their correct philosophical view, then will be reborn as humans and gods, and be able to be directly influenced by one among the 1,000 Buddhas. So there are 1,000 Buddhas that come during this fortunate eon previously, and future Buddhas that will come. So these Nagas will be reborn as gods and humans, and then be able to meet with them and be directly influenced by them, and be able to achieve the state of foe destroyer in that lifetime, where they are able to meet directly with the Buddha. And those are only those beings who are on the Hinayana track, not the Mahayana track. And then the sixth category is that no matter what size the action is, if it's virtuous or non-virtuous, it will necessarily remain, and when the causes and conditions are present, then they will manifest. And then the story shows of the bird's shadow. When high in the sky, the shadow can't be seen and isn't present. But if it goes lower to the ground, and then the shadow can be seen. So the shadow is always with that bird, like our actions, virtuous and non-virtuous, remain with us. So when the causes and conditions are present, virtuous deeds will cause happiness, and a small virtuous deed will cause a great amount of happiness, and a small non-virtuous deed will cause a great amount of suffering. So this, when the causes and conditions are present. So they're always remaining with us. So that's number 6. Dixon. So
Debatulta lepechi tsunab. Lepechi tu beja lani kunyo yomadam do de trapping zero de jaji botel deban mokdagdo.
So in the section in the magnification of karma, the Lama Tsong-kha-pa's text is very condensed. And the information isn't so readily available, and that therefore we need the commentaries like Jamyang Sheba's commentary to help us to understand what points are specifically being made as we go through each section. So the Jamyang Sheba's commentary is very small but has so much ability. There's little there with so much ability.
So we've gone
through the certainty of karma, and then the magnification of karma, and now we're on the not experiencing the result effects of actions that you did not do. We're on 214.
Dua nyuag jo ta donge nyuag jo ne gi le da magi le masa ba ina masa na ti rebo du te menu des an ti rebo dua da donge yu ma res menu de tembe se su zhang me ba sa bin rebo xue ba na ji chance da cha ja tu ba ta be ke ba zhang ma su su sa ne an rebo chu gu gu ro chukul은 아주 배제적으로 배제적인 소야 사제 나진 개발 담아 손 쏘다 사고 말이다 대단 잡아지게 때때 사고 그래서 때 마사나 안 사제기 최최도 배제제도 말이지 덤비 샤자도 봐 샤자문보다 덤비 주 담에 사비 개발 담아 손 쏘사비 제벌라 Sheba Naji, Debula Pejing, and Saji Roma to Pejig or Netutan, Sanju Sambata, Sojus and Arzuka Pejig or A. Sheba Naji, Jansa, Di Jutanji, Shaja to be Saba Naji, Tamada Sagu Mare, Magujan, Changaji, Sagu Bainos, Changaji Sagu.
Garshin, the indicate the Sabio Mare, the Donagare.
That the matter, the
Juju, the
Shaja to be Kaba Drama to Sosa,
Lesso,
and then Colotamo, choose on
Jappo,
choose on the choose on raw, choose on the children had the Netu you are, Raja you are, Shanju Samba you are, Suzuju you are, Chil Pejaji Woro, Pejaji Kensu, and then Shaja Tuba Najiki, to the Sagu Marite, the Chenrezig Saguris, there's Saguris.
Then Garshin Natsu Kanga Sagu Gumare. Gangisan Natsu Sanjay Guna.
Natsu Saguba in Natsuka Sanji Lawujirota.
Ale.
Was Sanji?
This will do.
Oh, yeah, what this one did it?
Okay, this will do. So now we're in section number 3. Not experiencing the results of action that you did not do. If you have not accumulated the karma that is the cause for an experience of happiness or suffering, you will in no way experience the suffering, the happiness or suffering that is its effect. So if one has not engaged in the action, for instance, of virtue, then it's not possible for happiness to occur. And if one has not engaged in non-virtue, then it's not possible for suffering to occur, because these are its results. Those causes results. So this is not possible to experience the result of something that one didn't do. So if the cause isn't present, the result can't be present. Those who enjoy the fruits of this is a question that I just had. Those who enjoy the fruits of the innumerable collections amassed by the teacher need not have accumulated all of the causes of these effects, but they do need to accumulate a portion. So I asked what that meant, because it didn't seem clear. Maybe it's clear to other people. But Rinpoche said basically that our teacher, Buddhist Shakyamuni amassed these collections of merit over 3 countless eons and then became a Buddha. And as a result, is able to turn the wheel of Dharma. The first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the third turning of the wheel of Dharma. As a result of that happening, various practitioners could listen to this and then transform. So the hearers, the solitary realizers, bodhisattvas, and then ordinary beings who were affected. So these beings need not have amassed the same collections to be able to be benefited by the Buddha as the Buddha. So I asked Rinpoche why, and he said, because they'd be Buddhas if they had amassed those same collections. So this is why. But they have to have amassed a portion of this in order to have heard the teaching. So that's what this section right here means, is that in order to be affected by the Buddha's mass collection of merit, because that's how the Buddha is able to teach and able to help us transform, is because he or she already had this mass collection. So it's saying that we only need a portion of it to be affected. So that's what the meaning of this is that we're experiencing the effects of being able to hear the teachings, and the hearers can hear the teachings, etc., etc., etc. Those beings and us, we need to have a portion of those things to be able to interact with those teachings. So that's the meaning of that. We have to have accumulated a portion in order to experience that result. And that's the connection to the section.
So then we're going
to look at the Shamar Panditas has some of the stories then now from this Lamrim text that relate to this.
Shamar Pandita le majibata matripane le majibata matripane shintu de sabe mata na nyogo mojwa jindos shinkal sabe mata na nyogo yomaros. Example. Dendu tangandu joa pembi le masana dendu tangandu jejege gemegi le de masana tada tu joa tem mesibatans and dendu tangandu jegmares le majibat jegmares doji jo on de shena tan lo ju jegdoa tubi jen koje ya chu dan temba tomba tan papa kata ya na 사봉기 유비 레지 데보스 통출라미데사 단데스이서라 주비진사야 되고 다코 자본아지나 마도자요서다 주비진스겐지 도자지요서래 아니 코나지 잡고 자본아지지로 그런 바바세버스 바바 취지겐지면로 최대 바바 바세 바바통 되네 Papa
Arya, father.
Papa, I know.
Ama Papa?
Papa Chujing, but Chulgabo. Papa say, Krum Papa say, passive Samuel Lesagua.
Oh,
then
okay.
Papa Gadayanas, Papa Gana Papa Ijeruda. Papa Gadayan Uncle Tilla Yushu, Gabe Dus. Papa Gana Uncle Tilla Shune. What the till Kini will be in the ginger with the Papa Gada and the Sapunki Ubi Leje Drebo Tonchula Mitesa Papa Gada and Uncle Kini Muyune taking Drebote Drebotra Tonchu Jule Jenen Jule Le Donjela Jule Marba and call it Tonchu Jule and Debut Mimores Tonchu Jule could send the Sabi Debut sendel me waters. Chudenji Baba Tomba Tan, Yap Papa Katayana, and Sapunki, you be legendable, Tonchula Mintesa. You Daduba Nance. You Dadu was that to be Jinglobati, to be Jin, Tanda could Baba second Euro. Papa Katayana will tell you again. What the Lombat Dadus was Takante, the Lombat is a Lombat. Could Papa say, Papa Kata and will tell you can Euro, what the Lombat le, then the Sai Chaba was Sai Chaba. Erot ring. Sai Chaba born there, and the Kozuka Saul Neja Jeruda. Meduja the Baba say, Papa Ganana, Gultila, you water Jagate, Sandele, Kutulumbale, Tila Chabone, Kutukna Saul, Mane, by Saul. Then Le Majiba the Majabani Jumbarista, Kulambo, Hercasa down, Burkas and New Yorks. Kuning late him Ejumaroda, Majizan, Kuning Sal Chabone, Lumba Saul never have 2 years. Chun Borden, Kuni Jala de Jan, Lumba Jedachin, Kuni Mashibares, Le Majeba Tamashib, Puteres, Jedanga, Saul Nen, Shivares. What the Logi do?
Then the Jelpo Ducha, the Papa says so. Then the Papa the Tela Shason. The Jelpo Papa.
Jabba Sufi doesn't turn the Jakanjimendra. Japan is Saro. Kumo, Japan is Saro. Kumo, and the Kuno Baba Chulagabe Jerota. And Kutam Kuno Baba Passe.
Then they
pass with some less Asaro. Then the Papa Gada and the Papa Roda. Papa Gana and Uncle Kenny Skinny.
The Jelpo Genie shoes.
Jabba Casore.
Through in the dirt.
Papa de Abamaris of Congo.
Genie.
Kenny should be.
Let's double do.
Kenny should be never Taku Lobatel, Tatila Chabons, Tonchu, Sendel Sabi, Legan, Sendel Mewater.
Lesser.
Could Papa say, Papa will can you over Yitan, and the Sendel Kulobatel, Tila Chababoy waters. Tila Chabone, and Kozuka Tila on any shadows. Jabudu Jatan, no matter Kangashi.
Lesser.
Tell no knee share matters. Ni, you hear Katan Burkazini. The Baltujman, so called bought turn Shilu, Shimures, Le Majiba the Majiba.
Then Konsu Ni, Garshene, Gangisene,
Baba Sayata, Judgmangul Tila, you are government, Lesa Major, Le Mazadu, Kuzukangal, Sai Chabone, Saul Shindu, Kuni Sokal. Both and turn Lovajan Chimber, Shivman.
Okay,
Le Majiba the Matib, but as example.
Yeah. So there is a story of a king, a bad king, who was a ruler of a land, and his father was someone who liked the Dharma, and this king killed his father. And so committed among the 5 heinous crimes of killing one's father, and then took an Arya being, a being who was an Arya, and threw him in where garbage was like in a dirty place. So threw this holy being in a dirty place because he didn't have respect, didn't like the Dharma. So as a result, it says that this area began to have a large, Rinpoche is saying, I think it's a sandstorm, but it's a rain that's earth. Rinpoche, rain that's earth came to this area and killed the king and all of the followers. But it is said that 2 people, Haruka and Baruka, their names, these are people's names, were able to escape in a boat, get in the boat on a river and escape. And it's said that they were able to escape because they weren't followers of this king. So they didn't create the karma. So they couldn't experience the results of the action because they didn't create it. So here, an action that is not engaged in cannot produce results. So it's saying that the higher and lower realms of... so Rinpoche said that... so when we look at Shintu, a fruit, for instance, or a tree, Shintung. If we look at a tree, for instance, if there isn't a seed there to produce that, then it's not possible for it to arise. So there must be a seed in order for a sprout to be produced, and in order for a fruit or a tree to be produced. So the seed has to be there. If there's no seed, then it can't be produced. Likewise, when we look at the higher and lower realms of cyclic existence, if the actions that produce those experiences are not created, then those experiences cannot be produced. So this is the meaning of that Nge Tsampa Diksun.
Yeah.
Loju Dang.
Ta loju ji do ta loju ji do ta de yang ja loju ji do.
Okay, and then now we have another story.
Ta jabu shara zomo. Ta jabu jil zomo ta jabi zomo ka so re. Hosan ji.
Niece.
jabu ji zomo de me de hosan ji se do ta ndu ho ban de jin ro. Mo green color ba.
Green.
Ah. Hosan ji. Ah.
Somo.
jabu shara zomo song de jeme yi ro da. Why
Jeme.
jeme.
Ah, okay.
jabu shara jabu ji ge ne why so go mar ba. Hosan ji ne kungaja kungaja yo res. ngaja ngolo shimong de tu bares. Papa chasa bares. Juju shimong da jo was de ji shimong de tu bares. Ne tu baba. Ko ne tu baba yin jero da. Ana jabu shara zomo hosan ji kungaja da jeba shimong soji Rabungo to say chance, Shimong to two sabres. Two sabayina yang kuzu karso two jang. My jabaji zom she because Hema yang could join Hamajile, jabaji zom she is. Zom she do ranch Saje Shuzaki, Sai Combat in Menwa. Ran Saje Sai Kamal Mata.
Oh, less. Not legend.
Raja Saje Shuzaki, Sai Kamal Matane, Sai Kamal Matane, and then could Ransaji Seba in under the conte, Ransaji Kamal Matatanova. What taking Namigi Takuzu Sharai Tomo Hosan Chishimo, Debuto Jan.
Lesso.
Jabu Saji Chitomo Naja Jubice, Ransaji Nevi, Zai Pombo, Zai Pombo Mambari Nami Jesa.
Lesso.
Transma to say you is that Transma to so Jigi, Kuzu Kamal Majamurta, Kuzu Kamal Majana, that Kuzu Papa, and Germate Nahal Putin, Nahal with the Kamal Mambadu, Kamal Mambadule. Tanga to less as a respect to Mare, that could not have the moment tumors. So made city shivers.
Lesso. Tyrimo Dro Tugamare, the Jelma.
Could Nahal no thing as you got a Taran Runa Pangmar.
Okay.
Lil Tagamar.
Okay.
Nasu Lesa.
Okay.
Ransaji, Kama Maratan Savares, or Manchun, see what is that.
Then the Ran Sanjay Kamba Majasun. Jelma?
That the Jabasha Somo.
Sumo Kama Majasun. Nama.
John Hammer, John.
The Sui
John
Kama.
Hammer. And
Brahmin.
Ranje.
Rangel, okay.
Rajesh.
Okay.
Kamba.
This, okay.
What the Matan?
Okay, decent.
Devasaris.
Okay, so another story that relates how this is, how one does not experience the result of an action that was not engaged in. It shows how there's a story of King Udayana and his concubine or wife, you can say. It's, I think, directly, literally more concubine, his woman, Rinpoche said. So there's a story that this king's woman had achieved the state of a never returner. So of the Nyantu, the hearer's vehicle, never returner. There's a stream approacher, once returner, never returner, etc. So they'd reached the state of a never returner, and because of this, had the ability to fly. So this queen had 500 ladies, women. That had achieved the path of seeing already, that she was teaching, or were part of her retinue, if you will. But when in a previous life, this queen, or we'll call it this woman, in her previous life, had burned down Prachika Buddha's house. So in her previous life, had burned down Prachika Buddha's house. As a result, it says that there was a fire that came. And even though they could fly, and there were miraculous powers that these people had, they couldn't get very far away from where this fire was starting. And it set fire to all of their apartments, and they weren't able to leave for whatever reason. They couldn't fly far enough away. Anytime that they tried to get away, the fire was right there. There was no way to escape the fire. And this is because of the certainty that they had engaged in these actions. So the results were definitely going to be were going to happen. So it says that these beings had to experience it. So I'm going to read it now directly out of this text, just as a note, just so that it's more, if I missed anything, or because it's the same story being told, but I wanted to translate it directly from Rinpoche, and now I'm just going to read it out of here. King Odiyana's concubine Srivata had achieved the results of a non-returner and could fly. Her retinue of 500 ladies had seen the truth, that is, gained the path of seeing. Yet when Akala the Brahmin set fire to her apartments, because in a previous life they had burned down a Brahmin's hut, we have Prachika Buddha's hut, they could only fly a small distance away. Srivati said, "Who rules us but our own karma, that we ourselves created and accumulated? They are all dived into the fire like moths into a flame and were burned." So this the story. So they tried to escape. Here it says Do, but Rinpoche is saying they tried to escape, but they couldn't. No matter how far away they got, it wasn't far enough, and they were all killed.
What the Takus Samoa Shimu Daju Pabato Kusungaja Mensiurota, Kusul Yubu Juars, Legaji, Kamba Jujuni Man.
Oh, Lesso.
Some of you go, guys, Shilumatan, Komasiba Resta, Kungama led Masaba, Le Majiba the Materials.
But then there's a story, but there was a servant named Kubajatara who had not achieved any magical powers, but didn't share this karma. So there was a servant of these other women who was able to escape from the fire by fleeing into a ditch full of water. So she went into some ditch that had water in it and didn't experience the results that the other women had, because she didn't engage in the actions which produced those results. So she did not experience the results of an action she didn't do. So we've gotten to 4 o'clock, and we're going to take a short break.
Of the people who died in the fire, does that now take care of their non-virtuous activities, and that their next rebirth will be that will be not there anymore, I guess?
The Kongichua, the Lojung Hama, the Jemen Lacha, dan the Jama, the Jobo Jemen. Then Kongichua, the Konsu, the May Konsu Seson, the Konsheson, Gangisena, the May Boa, then Konsu the Nana, then Konsu Sheson. Then the Konsu Deepa Kanga Dason. Then Konsu Jewa Shema, Yabudu Gangi Sena, the Deepa Dasan, Kongi the Triwa, Deepa Kanga Dasan, the Deepa Danjawa de Kanga Dasan, Deepa Danjawa de Kanga Dasan. Jawa.
That's on Danjawa, Kusu Rans Haji Kambal Major.
Lesser.
Major, that's on Lo, Duja, you can do Deepa, the Chibi Jere, Deans you can do Dean, Chung you can do Chung, Damanda in this, Kaji the magazine. magazine diba chuji taro da diba tanu re chason tamada tazongres.
So we have to say that there's some doubt if we ask the question, did it purify all of that karma related to that activity? I asked it in that way, that's connected to that action, not everything. Everything connected to that activity. We can say that possibly some did, but everyone involved have varying degrees of negativity related to the incident, depending on how they were related to this previous incident that they were all connected to. So we can say that this dying, this act, when they died, because being burned, was a ripening of the non-virtue, and is an experience of that, and therefore it does get rid of some of it or all of it, but we can't necessarily say all of it because each person has a different degree of involvement. So it depends on the degree of involvement. So Rinpoche said we can't really say for sure, but we can say that something has been happened because there is an arisal. So there isn't some sort of abandonment, but we can't say in a complete form.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take some.
다 가서 라리 집에 레 마지 받다 마치 받다 와도 로지 로주니 도와 다는 레셰바 추면서 받다 제받다 말바.
So the third category, not experiencing the effects of actions that you did not do, is now complete. So we explained it by way of those two stories that will help to understand what this point that's being made is. So now we're on number 4, and that's the actions you have done do not perish. 214 in English.
제바바들 장즈나네 기디다 심발내지 포한다 포마 최지시주 마자와 마제바당 체메송스 셰송다 제바바들 워데 셰송사 다 가데 테임버사 장즈스게 안데 레든 제보드 지질테야 요반 지킬랑만와 주면서반 제바바들 장즈나네 게디다스 장즈스에 네 거와다 디바다 안에 젠달 테야 요레스
Less so.
게디다스 게디다 심발내지 포마사 지질테야 요반지 로고레스 최지 샤자토바 최지 시주 마자와다 레시바 주마와 마제바다 테메스 레시바 주마자와다 레마제바다 마제바스
Ale.
트랜지던다고 말레스
Arla, the me mambo this samodando. Le te tudu. So here it says, the actions you have done do not perish. Those who have done virtuous and non-virtuous actions create pleasant and unpleasant effects. As Udbata Siddhavamins, Praise of the Exalted One, says. And what I just said to Rinpoche is that there's a large idea in the West of this transferring karma. And this is where it comes from. We find in the Brahmins state it, and then it's negated here. So that's what I was saying to Rinpoche. It says, the Brahmins say that virtue and sin may transfer to others, like giving and receiving a gift. You, O Buddha, taught that what one has done does not perish, and that one does not meet with the effects of what one has not done. So here, this is saying that there are some Brahmin teachings that say that virtue and non-virtue can transfer, that this karma can somehow transfer to others. Like you can give it to someone, your karma, or you can receive it from them in some way, like a gift. And here it's saying that no, that's not the case. You only experience what you have done, the results of what you have done, not what others have done, and there can't be this transference.
다 띵에데 잡을 놓지다. 띵에데 잡을 레장스. 세야 시네 리바 메주 미스 시네 리바 레셰바 길레다 마기 레셰바 길레다 마기 셰사네 안데 데보 리바 메주 미스 데보 도와다 동에 안데 리바 메주 미스 데보 도와 용그레 동에 용그레 동에 메주 마레스 메주 미스 젠지 셰바 젠지 셰바 초와 요 메사 레젠사 데부젠 요한테 요마레스 젠지 셰바 초와 요메 제단사 뭐든지 갈래로사.
Next, there's a quote from the King of Concentration Sutra. It states, further, once you have committed an action, you will experience its effect. Once you have committed an action, you will experience its effect, and you will not experience the effects of what others have done. So this is showing that when you engage in actions of virtue or non-virtue, you will necessarily experience the results of those, and those results of virtue being happiness, non-virtue being suffering. So here it's saying you engage in virtue and non-virtue, and you achieve the results, which are happiness and suffering. You experience its effect. And you do not experience the effects of what others have done. So you only experience the effects of what you have done. What others have done cannot ripen onto us. They only ripen into those individuals who have committed the actions. Yes, that's it. And there's a quote from the Vinaya, base of
le jena la ne devatato joain che son sos doa lon le na ke ba jayones le sa na gi le na magi le sa ne ke ba jachin ba ina ya ke ba jayone chumusa le debat chu sa ma debat gabat yongres chumusa che da tu so then
there's a quote from the Vinaya, the basis of discipline, that says, even in 100 years, karma does not perish. When the circumstances and the time arrive, beings surely feel its effect. So here, we're saying that virtuous and non-virtuous actions do not perish. Even if 100 eons has gone by, when the causes and conditions are present for the arisal for the cause to have the arisal of an effect, then beings surely feel the effects. So when the causes and conditions are present for the arisal of happiness or suffering, happiness being caused by virtue, suffering being caused by non-virtue, then one experiences those effects, be they happiness or suffering.
So we'll
go to Shama Pandita for some stories related to this.
Saben lo ma bo le na ni ne ni gu ma jo yue jang na gi le ji saben ne nie bi ju ma tu ke ba ja yang ja no yang ne ba nya ba ma si bi chen tu ne pe bi du la bo ba na de bu de ma zo jo wa yin sa ta nga tu sa le de na ta ta ba yin lo mo le ba yin na ku ni ba cha ne ma jo si gres Gimegi led sane ne karso never told song shane cheata konde jumbatin mahina keba jayan tan chuso mare cheno tundu debut troyong gres what is on the
so the dre kalpa
de da shingal tan new ba cha sona
ability
ne ko maje sigro run marbe what then gimegi led sane ne toji song shana cheata luta to konde manyo ba
oh okay so
what so
here, this section in Shamar Pandita's text begins with the actions you have done do not perish. And an example is given. If a seed is planted and still remains able to produce a sprout, when the causes, and no matter how much time goes by, if that seed is able to, then when the causes and conditions, earth, water, etc., are present, then it will produce a sprout. No matter how much time's passed, if that seed can, it will produce a sprout when the things that make it sprout are present, the causes and conditions. Likewise, no matter what, our virtues and non-virtuous actions will not perish and will necessarily ripen into results, even if 100 eons have passed, because their ability remains there. to produce those results. So if our non-virtuous actions haven't been destroyed by or purified by the four opponent powers, they remain intact and able to produce. If our virtuous actions haven't been destroyed by wrong views or anger or hatred, then they remain. So if they are intact and remain, even if 100 eons goes by, they will necessarily be able to produce whatever their compatible results are, whatever their results would be. Compatible in parentheses as a translator.
Dijen Paji Buset, Paji Butige, Sija.
Okay.
Paji Buset, could the Marjan do the Paji Buset in Israel. Paji Bu, Sija Martin, but Sija Paji, Shaja Martin, and Shaja Luma. Sija Martin Trancos, and then Paji Bug Mart, Sajal Martin, Man Leon Du, and then Magageable Nibachevero. Mage Poking and Madu Rugin, Jasu Shulvachi Yagas,
Yawa, okay.
Mangaji Dagi, Tepunji, Kuki, Parudo, Boa Troaso, Shubasa, and the Magaji Sanjay June, Taman Udo, and the sisters of Nyangado, Namam Rugin, Jasu Paruchi Yagas, Sanjay Shubaris. And the Sanji, what do you want, Marisita? To a Shuba, Tembi, Cheji, Teta Numis, Tembi, Mangay Butcher, Marga Rogin, Jasvari Ture, to never you are is. In a pen to Mare, Shaja Batuki, Lesa Savaris, Lane Debut no Gurma Tire Maris. Shaja Naji, Le Chumaza Sonza. Shaja was Lesa Sabarima to Yune, Shaja was a secret, could share Lesa Sabaris, and what the Nugumaris on him. Choosing T. Magi Shajana, T. Magi Shajana, Katabar, Tombana, and a Ku Shambo, Shaja Mencheji, da Churu Nunes. Shema Rujubado, Suyang, Mazuba, Mojenshi, the Suyang, Mazu, Shingi Yanga Zinto, Nobi Wudo, Shune, Su Tangway, Johnson Jambin La, Le Majibana Trude, and the Shushu Susur Sonsa. Le massacre Gangalo done 2 times. Le Shebana, Troncheji, Shagu Nation de Noguneju, Sogo Nation de Nogune, Joba Suji, Sandu de Meche Shiva, Shete Shaja, Duntungaton, Shaja Duntungaton, and Reji La G said, G Sebatan. Ji Sebatan, that don't end the Pajibo Lumbaji, Maja Jabu Pajibro, Ma Lumbata Chibate, Shabu doing no Lukudian Lures, Lontain Berta. Pajibo Sha Dune, May City, Nuando Lontain Bay, Lumbana, Jimmy Seto, Sha Dunji, Mama Beba, de Du. Kushe Jan, Sha Duba, Rishi Shuan, and the Sambika, Tumashiki, Kaji, Ding, Meshijane, Jen Dojimbi, Tse, Meshila Nye Potesa, Kena Sanjela, Michine, Kansan Sumbane, Paji Bolomba Jiba, Druba Zamba Na, Mamai Rai, Gujete, Udun Beijing to Tsine, Name to Joa, tabu loju tayi shinsa. Ta teima ta kande jab phaji boge sejal matang shaja isaro shaja tubu lobatel matang isaro matang yodule ta mangi boge wata ma yone shaja bazul kange tega dos ene ma tu ngaro rojene jasu paru chi shagas shu bares ta and sanji go te chu ma tu jasu paru chi gini chul neba yoares re shaja bogo sheyage lesa sabare pen tu mares sumares Dana gozo ma yone shaja bas sega injero.
Sesa.
Sedi shaja menjen sa pemri menwa. Shaja menjen ga ta ko tsol man rogis. Ko ya ma yon bot shaja bas ma se rujas. Ko tsun ma tsol man ro na nga ya ma yon bot ne shaja bas ma se rujas. Mo je ju bares ta. Anu ko ya ma yon bot ma se injero ta. The barule le masak shaja baka Treatise. Treatise. Shaja meje sheba koba dalansan shaja duntre kazini semudwe. Then what they gonna in the kava in Jirota. Then the shaja jigi said that shaja baka the shivers. What the leisure chumas of the rest.
Sobio Mare.
Yeah. Khalil.
Okay, so the story is that of during the time of the Shakyas, the Shakya clan, there was someone who was going to wage war on the Shakyas, the Shakya clan. And Mugiputra had special powers and was able to, through magical powers, bring all the Shakyas to the other side of the Jatso Bharadashima, to the other side of the ocean. So through magical powers, he could bring them to the other side of the ocean. And the Buddha said to Mugiputra, yes, you have the ability to magically bring these beings to the other side, away from where this war is going to happen, but it will be of no help whatsoever, because this is karma. These beings have accumulated the causes for this death to happen, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. You can't stop karma. So the Buddha advised Mugiputra of this. Then the Mugiputra, the Shacha Kerson, Kermason, the Shacha Tupa, the Laja, the Keomare, the ten Pentogomare. Then Kerson Kermason. Keomare. So he did not bring them, and they all died. Then Kanga Sheson. Then the Trick Ngacha Garishin. Shison. So 75,000 Shakyas were killed. So there were 75,000 Shakyas who died, and then there was even a woman who made a prayer to, please, I will hide inside of this river, and dove into the river to be able to be not killed by this war. And it said that she drowned in the river because of karma and its results. That it was it was definitely going to happen. So I believe that is the entirety of that particular story. I apologize if I omitted anything, but I believe that's in its entirety.
Here. Then Yamat Shigul Pone, medde wote parol tsire what mambane kuzuka tsine nyawa tsanin roses
the Shabudun.
ta sonje lonten rota
So they kakare this.
ma paji ma yun shajak ngase sarota
Say so.
segres sonje paji bo khodan jeba sha du nolde shabud du tul megtsine nyawan jigres lonten rota lonten ba najin wote shabud du batul kuzu linkana jide machon ma tan de injroda ane shabud du de nakhalan du ku chemeji hingu shigu jimero shigu domare de de til nyama shane mambane wote kuzu gatsine chanel jizores.
Then there's this story of for 7 days someone tried to escape by going to the hell realm, and 7 days by staying in like it's like a park, a park. And apparently when it was in the park, there was someone who had a mirror that was using it with the sun and caused a fire, and this person died in the fire that was created by this reflection and that this person was using as a mirror to reflect the sun and caused a fire, and this person died even though they tried to for these days escape the consequences.
다 고즈 카말 맘바 어디 파지부 다 마음 고즈 다 줘야지 고드마 저러지도 너 고나로 마마이 어디서 간 당고 말았어 다 소만해도 되지로다 파지부 마용해도 들어 고즈를 맘바로 맘바는 다 맘바 카말 맘바 어디 고즈 줘로다 실로마 저는 거로 줘서 당고 말았어 산데 돈데 남들 간.
So then the fire started, and they tried to flee from this, and they were unable to flee, and then as a result were born into the hot hell realms. So they were trying to flee from this fire, and then they passed anyway and were born into a fiery hell realm. This is some of the stories. Rinpoche said that we can look into also Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand by Pabunka Rinpoche, where we find quite a few of these stories. So we've gone through the 4 categories of the certainty of karma, the magnification of karma, not experiencing the results of what you have not done, and also the actions you have done do not perish. So we've gone through those 4 sections. So now we're going to the next section, reflecting on the distinctions among the varieties of karma and the 2 points that are made. We're on page 216 in the English, and reflecting on the distinctions among the varieties of karma. Jew, okay. Okay. So. So the first category, reflecting on the distinctions among the varieties of karma, has 2 points. First, the principal teachings of the 10 paths of action. So here, 10 paths of action are speaking of the 10 virtuous actions, the 10 non-virtuous actions. So these are the 10 paths of action. And the determination of the effects of actions, how the results of actions are determined. So how each of these actions results are determined. That's it. That's what it says. So it says.
도와도 동행 주데 소소소마도 지레 말레스 소소 냐바당 레페초와당 마제바당 마테진 레페초와다 레 마제바당 마테진 셰바 추마자와 셰바 추마자 시사바로다 주데 소소 냐바 레 냐바제 레페초와제 레 마제바당 마테진 셰바 추마자와 데스 추마자와 데 데 레단 데비 추 진도와시라 토망야 받지네 란도 샤냐나사 다 레단 데보 진도와시라 토마 냐받지네 아나 보자본 라자 냥선레 고레스 저와도 꾸에도 말바 란도샤 셰나 사다미지 셰마도 셰나 사다미지 셰마도 셰나스 안에 실레니宣주 비고네 손동에라스 제르스 레바드 레바스나 당가서 고트세야도 말베 레바드 녜바스는 주 말베 레바다 녜슈 주비 레슈도 레슈스나 기데부터 진짜래 녜슈 주비 고네 손동에라스 레슈도 주비 고네 손 달르지레 가지레 이지레 어떻게 생각을 말해 고송제스 그메가 타지 레지 레라줄 만두장사 레라줄 만두장 그메가나 칠롱아 라바 코나 네 코나 마두베 제신도 쳐와나 상지 존된데지 네 뒤네 나빌레라 주송신사 다 거와주도 먹어주도 제가 가서 그래 디발라든 디바주부 가는 차고 말에 거와래야 거와주부 가는 차고 말이데 들리 철롱 뒤네네 그다 먹지리바 레지랑 주송소스 대 쳐와서 라바 그걸로 내가 쳐고 그걸 저루지네 거와주다 먹어주송 말했어 레샤드니 주비제는 손동에라스 고송지 금메게 타지 레지 레란주 만두 장사 레지레 나글레 이지레 죽걸로 안에 고아주던 먹이줄 누구 말했어 차고 말했었다 차고 말했어 그러
Okay.
만두 장사 안 주자부터 가르르서나 안는도다 난주도스로 왔다게 쳐왔다 내가 쳐고로 로제네 고아주다 먹어와주스도 좀 버렸어 먹어왔나 철롱아 라바코나 마투비 신도 쳐왔나 신도 쳐왔나 사지 존된데지 내 뒤네스 사지 존된데지 내가 그 로즈네 나빌레란조 송거레스 tata pona 전신도치 디바주데 디바 먹어 주도 뭐이나 시다 내가 쳐버레스 내나 장 준두와 내나 저 준두와 시네 카빌레란조 먹이주봉 수진 내 든리랑서 말바 든리랑 낸리랑 대바 먹어 주도 낸리랑 거 주도 든리랑 what to 치고 차들마도 전화도 걸리도 돼. 걸리지는.
So the principal teaching and passive action. So there's a question that's posited here. Given that I have ascertained the causality of happiness and suffering as explained previously, I've understood that karma increases, that I will not meet with the results of actions that I have not done, and that actions I have done will not perish. about what sorts of karma and effects should I initially develop certainty, what should I adopt, and what should I cast aside. So here it's saying, once someone has gained certainty relative to the certainty of karma, the magnification of karma, not experiencing the results that you have not engaged in, and that karma doesn't perish or doesn't go away, what should one adopt then? What's the first thing to do once you realize this? So what should one practice? What should one abandon? Once one knows this, what should be practiced, what should be abandoned? And it says the reply. In general, you can conclude that there are 3 ways to engage in good and bad conduct. So these words good and bad aren't as simple in the Tibetan, but they mean good and bad. So it says good and bad conduct. Physically, verbally, and mentally. Although not all virtues and non-virtues of these 3 ways are included within the 10 paths of action, still the Buddha, the Bhagavan, summarizing the key points, taught the most obvious or coarse among the virtues. In here it says the white and black karma in here instead of virtue and non-virtue, but we know it means the same thing, but it says something different in the Tibetan that has to be interpreted into virtue and non-virtue, just as a note. White karma being virtue, black karma being non-virtuous karma. So the word white and black is in the Tibetan, and I don't see it in the English, and it would take me too long to go back and forth to word, but just so you know that from a meaning perspective, because Rinpoche was explaining what white and black karma were, and it's not in here. So that's what the meaning of that is. It says, still the Buddha, the Bhagavan, summarizing the key points, taught the most obvious or coarse among the virtues and non-virtues as the 10 paths. So here it's saying that when we look at virtue, we can't say that if it is virtue, it is necessarily included among the 10 paths of virtue. If it is non-virtue, it is necessarily included among the 10 paths of non-virtue. The Buddha taught in a coarse way these 10 paths of action of virtue and non-virtue, but didn't say that these were the only virtuous activities one could ever do, or these were the only non-virtuous activities one could ever do. There are subtler levels, this being a more coarse level that was explained by the Buddha. It says, taught the obvious or coarse among the virtues and non-virtues as being the 10 paths of virtuous and non-virtuous action. So the 10 paths of virtue and non-virtue that we engage in through our body, speech, and mind. So above here it says the 3 ways we do it through our body, physically, speech, verbally, and our mind, mentally. So this is how we engage in these 10 paths of action, be they positive or negative, white or black. So he taught that the extremely great foundations for a misdeed are the 10 paths of non-virtuous action. I'm just going to read to the end, even though we haven't completed that, so we have a frame of reference. He saw that when you give up these 10, you adopt virtuous actions, and that the most important points of these virtuous actions are also 10 in number. Therefore, he taught 10 paths of virtuous action.
le ngebe chu le pe chwa le ma je ba dam de le che ba chu so ba she tsabaro ta te she tsabares ta she ne na po ja kar pon gore kar nya so le gore so na.
So now that I know about the certainty of karma, the magnification of karma, understand that results won't occur if the causes aren't there, and are not experiencing the effects of actions that you did not do, and that the actions you have done do not perish. Once you know all of this, what do you practice? What do you abandon?
What le ngeba le pecho le majiba le sheba chumazo te sheta du ta kar pongurus na deba mogo chu to pongure gawa chu nyale che what the le marba.
So here, what is the root of this? This says, once I know that, once I know these things about karma, of the certainty of karma, the magnification of karma, not experiencing the results of actions you did not do, and that the actions won't perish, the actions you have done do not perish. Once you've known this, what do you adopt? What do you cast aside? What you cast aside or abandon the 10 non-virtuous actions. You engage in or practice the 10 virtuous actions. So this is the pith of this whole thing right here. What do you do once you've known these 4 things? You abandon the non-virtuous 10 and you engage in the virtuous 10.
Tashir she le shu nya shu ju bu gun son tu nge las le nga ye son de ji ro ma ba son tu nge la go son je ma go wa ta je le ji chu ma du jans le ji ma go wa nga ge ma go wa ye ji ma go wa chama lo ane de ba ma go chu nan du ma res ta le ji ma go wa ina ma go chu ko ro ma cha 나가 먹어 이나 먹어 주고 거는 맞아.
Less
이제 먹어 이나 먹어 주고 거는 맞아 자고.
Less
다 르지 먹어 이나 주고 거는 맞아 좋으나 가자고다. 르지 먹어 소주 봐 맞아.
Less Mayimba, Gare Mayimba.
로이마르가. 그지더러.
The beating, the goshu.
슈바들어. 슈바 이나.
Shuchen.
콘돌란 슈바 이나 디바로.
Deepa Yimba, Loy Deepa, Loy.
먹어 주고 가는 거야. 먹어 주고 가는 거야. 어떤 나지 먹어야 돼. 가르자도.
The Pomo, Mizanshu, the Konsu Kongu Mare.
아니.
And then Mizamsha, the Nala. So Rinpoche said, this is the point we're doing. We can all do this together. So the question is so there's a doubt. So when we look at this in dialectical terms, if we look at this in terms of debate, it says here that we engage in actions, either good or bad, non-virtuous or virtuous actions through our body, speech, and mind. But it's saying that if it's, for instance, a non-virtuous action, it is not necessarily, so if it is a non-virtuous action, it is not necessarily among these 10 non-virtues. So it doesn't have to be among these 10 to be a non-virtue. So Rinpoche said if we look at a non-virtuous actions of the body, we see that there are 3: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Posit something that isn't among those 3. So then we came up with punching someone in the head. Punching someone in the head is a physical action that is non-virtuous, that isn't killing, stealing, or sexual misconduct. So Rinpoche said, what's another one? And then that's where we left off. So something that is non-virtuous, that isn't among those, that is of the body, that isn't among those 3 non-virtues of the body, that isn't hitting someone in the head. So that's the question that's posed to the room, because a doubt arises. What do you mean that there's non-virtue that isn't among these 10? What could it be? So then that doubt then show, which means, they say in Tibetan, which means posit something. So then you have to think about what could be outside of that, but still necessarily negative.
What the religion Magola, then Mago Jukarim Machasrua. Tangaki Magola, Mago Jukarim Jun, Tama, Sidu Zero, or the Machabashadwe.
So then let's look at the non-virtuous actions of the speech. Lying, harsh words, gossip, what did I miss? Divisive speech. Is that what I missed? Divisive speech. So these are the 4 non-virtues of the speech. So find something which is there something that is, so if it is a non-virtue of the speech, it isn't necessarily among these 4. Show, which means posit that which is not necessarily among these 4 that is non-virtue of the speech, but not among those 4. Got it. See, then the Jipa Mayimba.
That Jun Mayimba, Tama Mayimba, and then Jun Situ Mayimba, Ngachi Mayimbi, Nagi
Jika Mayimba show.
Diba Shawaro. The Karashawas.
Jika Mayimba show, Guy Lenja.
The Machas do
that. Machat said, you got it.
What to do?
So Rinpoche, I said, so what is it? And he said, it says here, it does not pervade it. So there is one. There is something. So what is it? What could be something of the speech?
What the yeah, Tasha Shajus.
The Natsu, the Hla Jenda Molanjalu, the Cheran Sheda Yapudu, then Shiva Sheda Yapudu, Cheran Demba Sheda Yapudu. The Lana? The La Lutayin. Yine the Nga Ile. The Shiva, the Dawa, Nabi Dawa, Shiva Yarudu. The Lama?
Lana Julian Mar.
But that's a lie, he says. So that would fall categorically under a... What were you saying if you're praising...
As a Buddhist would pray to a different God out loud.
So ngatsu the agenda the molanjadu. Then the da yure. Then the yimba. The molanja nga the jantro drodu. Agenda jansu drodu. The lana kalana.
Just do in the Dembaro, the Demba, Manabet, the Dembaro, the Magoja, Yimaro. That to
the agenda jalsadrona. Ngay the Shiva jalsadrodu. Lana, the dra.
My Jebal chosen doing.
Yeah, the lana.
I revenge in the
Shiva. The lana. The Dipa. Gangasin and Gatsu Napa. So he's not sure if it's a misdeed or not.
Yeah.
He's not sure if that would be a misdeed or would be considered a misdeed of the speech or not if you say this out loud. As Rinpoche said, it's something we need to think about. So we need to go over this again and then think about it and then go over it again and think about it. The question that I posed was saying that for instance, the non-Buddhist Dharma is higher than the Buddhist Dharma. And he said, if I said that, would that be something? And Rinpoche said that's when he said that would be a lie. So that would be lying.
Flattering somebody truthfully for the purpose of manipulating them to do something bad.
The nga the cheran the ngugu, nga the cheran sheda yapudu, the cheran the ninjebudu, cheran the sheda zepudu. Gar sheding the laudu nga cheran ngugu, chikshina de nga dipa. The choka nga the nala, the cheran sheda yapudu, the gangasina nga the cheran chalagu. Chikshina Dipa did. So yeah, maybe. He said, is it or isn't it? He said, this is what we have to look at. This is how the debate is in India. Like, is it, isn't it? Everyone just starts hammering away at questions just like this. This is exactly what happens in a debate. So there are two doubts that arise. So if we look at non-virtue of the mind, and we say that posit a non-virtue of the mind that is not necessarily among the three non-virtues of the mind, covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong view. Posit something that is a non-virtue of the mind, which is not among those three. Because we see here it says it does not pervade it. So posit something among that, which is that. I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing Nasa Nusan Luta. That means the Matepa. Rinpoche was saying something like laziness. This mental state of laziness could be considered a category of the mind which isn't among those four. Being lazy. But we have to think about it. We have to think of these three things. Body, speech, and mind, and things that are not necessarily among the three, the four, or the three. And then in the future we'll get together again and we'll talk about it. Sasha. True cheek, you're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, they're normal.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but going into the purification of karma and using the four opponent powers to not experience some of the effects of the actions that we do. Mm-hmm. Let's say if I commit a non-virtue and then I say use my four opponent powers for that, is that considered purified? Or if I think about it again, I know that becomes attachment to that action or whatever, but how many times do I need to purify an action?
Con le san
Yeah,
san
I
de
mean, I know
dakwa de le
beginningless
chipa saldu.
times.
Me gewa le chipa saldu.
Crimes.
De san san la tu contra sa. Then kong chiwa de le me gewa sana ngatsu nepa dorje. The nyalanche nepa dorje. Then so you apply the four opponent powers. You engage in this non-virtue regularly, and then you apply engage in it one non-virtue.
Well, I'm using one specific
You're saying
example.
the again part was the reason I said.
Well, if I think if I regret doing that action, and then I apply the four opponent powers, and then I regret doing that same action again later, but in my mind I already purified that action. So should I purify it again? Or
Contra sana de chikshin, then the le megewa le saldu. Then nepa dorje the shaldu. Then the shapuni sum je jema yanger contra saldu. Then the nepa dorje yanger. Gangesena the damasum. The gangesena the tambo the damasum.
다 가버려 준도는 도지 샤나 지야 계시 그래서 나도 라산 냐부터 샤나 지는 그 대바도 라산 매버서도 말아
That's so.
양자용
So the four opponent powers, the regret part of that is the most important part. But because we have such a large accumulation of negativities within our continuum, we can apply these four opponent powers, but they will only purify a portion. They will not necessarily get rid of all of those propensities or those dispositions for that behavior. So we have to look at it like a balancing act almost, of engaging in it and then applying the opponent powers and making sure we have that regret so that we eventually purify it altogether.
this way what does in the
We're out of time.
다 제마 또 산다고
So in the future, we'll think of this again. Shiri Abudu Rinpoche.
Yeah.
Khensur de Dasi Dang Gabudu.
야
So you can see how the debate is loaded right into the text. It's saying it's necessarily this, and there's consequences to that statement. Okay, so the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Gutsi Shabi Denona.
그렇잖아 야